What is your least orthodox RPG opinion?
What's my least orthodox RPG opinion? Okay, this is a good one because, I had to ponder this one for a while. I think if you go online, any single opinion that I've ever seen has people for or against it, right? So even though I think there's many opinions that a lot of people would agree with or disagree with, that would be really interesting to discuss, it's not a question. The question is, which is my least orthodox, which would mean that I've never seen anyone agree with it. Now, to be fair, I've never seen anyone bring it up either. As far as I know, I'm the very first person who's going to bring this up. Now, of course, that would be delusional to think that that's the case. But as far as I've ever seen in my life, no one has ever come up with this idea. And I feel very strongly about it. I really do. And I'm someone who has brought many people to role playing games for the very first time. So the thing about me is, I don't necessarily find my players in the typical geeky environments. If I make friends with people, I can like test the waters. I kind of see how they're like, and even if it's something they would never have considered, I kind of like see. Okay, do I think they might have it in them to enjoy a game like this? So because of that, my least orthodox RPG opinion is the following: if someone doesn't know how to play an RPG game, like has never played before, the best thing you can do is get them started without them knowing the rules. I know we're in a day and age when everyone's like, oh my god, people should know the rules. They should bother to take a moment to read the rules and all that. I think it's true for a game master. And I necessarily think that after a while, it could be useful if someone learns the very basics of the rules. However, what I found to be true is that, especially for new players, the rules can be a burden to their creativity. I hate systems like, oh, what's the name of it? It's the system that the game Monster of the Week uses, where it's basically like protecting someone is a move, but it doesn't matter how you do it. Like you have specific moves you do, and then people interpret it in the story, and it's supposed to be very sort of story centric, but I find it very limiting in how people will start thinking in how to approach a solution. And I think the idea behind it is that, oh, it's easier for new players because these are the sets of moves you could do, right? um, However, what I think is more true, and obviously, it kind of depends on the system. You want to help people making their characters, but at the same time, like I think it's important to explain things in terms of story. If you take this, you're really good with the sword. You don't need to start explaining, oh, you're increasing your critical damage, or like you cause a lot of damage with the sword, for example. I believe in, if someone has never played before, I tell them what the game is, and I tell them, don't worry about the rules. I'll tell you what to do with the dice, and I'll tell you what happens. You just concentrate on who's your character and what you want to do in this universe. And I find that creates long-term very good role players. It's been my experience that people who have I'm gonna make a parallel to martial arts. Like people who have started in a style that's not very practical, then they try to do a more practical martial art and they struggle because now they have old habits they have to get rid of. Like things that don't really work in an actual fight, and they have to not just learn the new stuff, they have to get rid of the old stuff. So I think for role players it's the same. What I find is that people who have entered the hobby under my tutelage um, approach it from the story, from what makes sense in the story, from how the characters would act and perceive things, because they have learned to think that way first, and then the rules come second. Um, and I don't mean in a sense that the rules are unimportant; they're very important. But some people create house rules just for the heck of it, whereas I used to be like that, but now I'm more like, if I create a house rule, there has to be a strong reason behind it. Because there's something useful about just leaving the book as is in a way. But that's a different subject matter. Um, or I think some people just create house rules out of creativity, which is fine, or out of some like arrogance that they think they do everything better. But that's again another subject matter. So yeah, so I found that if I tell someone, look, this is your character, just play as you think the character would act. It's improv with dice, is what I tell people. And then, and what kind of was kind of cool is that, like, let's say someone is a certain situation, they're not thinking about what's on their character sheet, they're thinking about what makes sense in that moment. And then that sticks with them, that stays with them. They make really good role players. Um, and it's just, and also, like, what I think is good at that approach is that some people are never going to be good with rules. And that was actually one of the reasons why I switched to. Well, I used to be a 3 point third edition, like, I started with my D&D experience started with third edition D20, and I used to be a lot into third edition. But then I realized I had some of my players were just not gonna be able to keep up with the levels and the feats and all, and like everything involved in that system. And I switched to Castles and Crusades. And back then I saw it as, back then with my third edition brain, I thought, like, oh well, it's not the best version of the game, but it'll do because these some of the players are not super rules, you know, based. They don't have a like that in them to keep track of all these things. And then over time, I realized that Castles and Crusades, to me at least, is a much better gaming experience, a much better story experience. Like, you can have a combat in one session and story. The combat doesn't last so long that you can only have one or the other. So I think when it creates more balance, it leaves it more open precisely for people to come up with more story centric ideas. Again, I'm going a little bit beside the point, but my point is that through going with a system that was less crunchy and yet consistent enough that you could kind of like come up with things on the spot that still fit with the rules framework, I realized that again it was just good for a role play. And what I found is that people who are really good role players, but not necessarily very rules centric, that gives them a place at the table. Whereas even with the rules like system, if you cannot approach someone and you're asking them right away to jump into the rules, their mind is going to concentrate on that, and that's going to stick with them. The same way as if you pick up a bad habit in martial arts, it's going to stick with you for a long time, maybe forever. And you see that some people, when they get tired and fighting, they start their old bad habits start coming up again once they're tired. It's never gonna go away. And I think that's the same thing. Like, if someone was stressed over, you have to learn these rules, you have to know how this works before you even start playing. Um, it will warp what their focus is for the games. So my least orthodox game, RPG, opinion is that it's the best way to bring people into the hobby is to start them without, like, don't worry about the rules. Don't worry about the rules. Like, just play your character. I'll help you build a character according to what you want in story. Do you want him to be good with swords? Do you want her to be a good diplomat? Whatever. Like, I'll help you build that in with the rules. Don't worry about the rules, and then just play your character. I'll tell you what to roll, and over time you'll pick it up. And over time, if you're interested in this hobby, then you can start investing time into looking up the rules, because by then you know that it's worth it and you like it. But not starting worrying about the rules and then having this kind of like table like you know tabletop social not well, a tabletop strategy game. I was looking for the words. Not having this like tabletop strategy game in mind when you should be enjoying this fictional world, and taking part in this fictional universe, and that's part of the experience of the game. That's what defines this hobby and this type of gaming. So yeah, let me know what you think. Please do let me know in the comments of Grimm's channel. Of course, I'll be spying on the comments for the first few weeks for sure. Um, Otherwise, you can write to me at my if you have opinions and all that, or you want to let me know. Hey, I dropped a comment. Go check it out. You can contact me at chronicles of the crimson hound at gmail.com. Okay, everyone. Thank you for watching.